In this video, we're going to be building a mix with the Midas MR18. I'm going to be showing you how I balance a mix, how I get stuff started with EQ and compression. We're going to dive in a little bit to assigning DCAs and how I use those, and some of the effects and even a de-esser on some of the vocals. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, get some headphones so that you can listen and hear what I'm hearing. Today I'm using the One Audio headphones that they sent me to try out. They're nice and comfy. We'll see how they translate, but I've been pleased with them so far. I've had them for about a year or so. And let's dive in and do this mix. Now, if you didn't watch the setup videos and the other videos that I've gone through all the channel processing, how to get started with it, they're all in a playlist with all these videos on the MR and X-Air consoles. So you can check that out down in the description below. I'll put a link to it. So let's get started mixing. All right, I always like to start with the keyboard or some sort of pitch reference. It gives me context. That's the primary instrument in this mix. So I've got my keys linked left and right. And then I'll start with the keyboard vocal. For he is holy. By starting with the keyboard vocal and the keys, then everything else I build has to make room for those. So I don't want to overcome these main primary things with my other things. I want them to fit together like a puzzle piece. Next, I'm going to add in the bass. Now with the bass, I can add in the kick drum. And now the snare to match the kick. Now I add in the overhead so that I get a big picture of all the drums. I'll come back and fill in the toms later. I usually turn those up and then back them off just a little bit so they don't cover up the vocals when the drummer gets really strong on the ride. Now I can add in my other instruments. I've got electric guitar and I've got a second keys. So I turn them up till I can identify them. Then I back them off till they fit well with the primary instrument. For he is holy, and for he is holy, and he is worthy of all of the glory. Let me rewind to a different part that's got a little bit more energy for a second. Let's go back and fill in the toms, see if we can find those. We'll find a section with the toms in just a second. Now I'm going to pan the toms just for fun, so I'm going to select here on the output part. In headphones it feels pretty wide, but I know in speakers it'll probably sound a little more normal. Now we can turn up the background vocals now that I've got the band up and going. All right, this is feeling pretty good, but it is still a little bit cluttered. We've got just one knob that's going to help us a whole lot with that. But before we get to that, I just want to thank the folks at Zounds for letting me borrow this MR18. They lent it to me. I didn't pay for it. I'm going to send it back, but it's awesome that I get to demo this gear and show it for you guys. I do have affiliate links down in the description below. If you purchase stuff through those links, it generates a small commission for me. So you can say thank you for producing this content. If you're going to buy some audio gear, it's a great place to do it. And I've really had great success with their customer service. Yes, great success. All right, so let's get on to the mix. The input page on our channels has the high pass filter. So if we go through and on each one of these inputs, if we turn on the high pass filter and roll up the high pass filter until it sounds too thin, and then back it off just a little bit, most of these things that don't need to be really big and beefy, it's gonna make more room for the stuff that does need to be big and beefy, and that will clean up our mix really fast with this one knob. Now, it doesn't give you a good visual representation on the EQ screen over here on where exactly your high pass filter is. So instead of using the one on the main page, I'm actually going to use the one here on the EQ so that you can see what I'm doing, but it's going to be the same idea, whichever one you're on. So I'm going to go to the low band on all of these and turn on the high pass filter. Now, later, if I need a low boost or if I run out of bands of EQ, I can switch this and switch off the high pass filter that's on the EQ for the high pass filter that's on the input channel. But I wanted you to be able to see what's going on with the high pass filter, and then I can drag it around the screen. You can kind of see what's going on there. So this is for your benefit, although you should always use your ears and probably do it on this page. You can do that just fine, but I want you to have that added visual. That'll be helpful for you. So on the EQ, we're going to go to our low cut on the low band and start rolling this up. So let's try that on each one of these. Actually, before we do that, there's one more control thing that I want to do so that we can get a little bit more of a highlight on each one of these. That's called DCAs, or digitally controlled amplifiers. DCAs are a remote control for the faders that are assigned to it. So on the kick drum, or say all the drums, I could assign all of them to DCA number 1, and that would make it so that the DCAs, or this one fader, controls the level overall, or the relative level of all of these faders locked in. So if I have the perfect drum balance and I want to just pull them all down just a little bit or push them all up just a little bit, the DCA allows me to do that and preserve all of those balances on the faders. To assign something to a DCA, you can go to the channel itself and then go to output and then assign it to DCA group. And then it'll say 1 there right below the solo button for what DCA it's assigned to. So I could do this for all of the drums. If your DCAs are not visible here on your current layer, you can go to your setup menu and your layout and make a custom layer. If we just hit all channels, we can scroll around and we don't see any DCAs. I had to make a new one by hitting this little plus button. I named it James Style just because I ran out of other things to talk about or name it. So we can make a new one. We'll just call it that, and then we can add whatever channels we want into there and scroll through, and those DCAs are at the end. So if we wanted to add those would be on our list. You can also drag and move these around with that button at the top. So if you want to reorder things for you, if you want to have those in a different spot, you definitely can do that. On this one, the DCAs definitely are, well, I don't know if on this one I have to hit the pencil. There we go. So they're all added and it has the DCAs there as well. Although for some reason the DCAs are at the end on here, but then when I go back here, the DCAs are all at the beginning. So that's that. And I wasn't able to rename them either. So you'll just have to know which ones are which and keep it in order. Like put the drums, if your drums are first on your input list, put that as DCA number 1. So now the relative level of all the drums is going to go up and down with that DCA. Let me play it and demonstrate it so you can hear all the drums go down and come back up. So you can see how that's remote controlling all of those input faders. They don't move on the screen, but their relative level going to the mix bus and to any post-fader aux sends is affected by that. So I'm going to assign number 2 to all the rest of the instruments. To do that, I'm going to actually select the DCA, and it should give me assignments. There we go. If I select the top of it, I can select what channels with these little push buttons. So that's channel 7 through 11 I want to have on my band DCA, not number 12. And then for DCA number 3, I want to have 12, 13, 14, and 15. So I've got a vocals DCA, so I can pull all those up and down. And then maybe for this last one, I'm going to have all the band inputs. So this would be all, but then I'm going to just deselect all my vocals and effects and things like that. This way, when it's time for the band to stop or we're transitioning from one thing to the next, it's a lot more professional sounding to like fade stuff out rather than just muting it. So you can do mute groups, right? And mute groups we could assign to a channel on the output page here with mute groups 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you'll see those mute groups up here. I don't prefer that. I prefer to fade stuff out. Just makes it sound more professional. So do it the professional way, use a DCA, but also don't get tripped up by a DCA by having it down and wondering why there's no sound, right? So if this is down at negative infinity, that's as if all the faders are down. You're not going to push these up to overcome that. It's just not going to happen. So watch out for that. Be careful, but DCAs can be your friend. With that, now I can highlight some more of the stuff. So I'm actually going to pull down the instruments and the vocals so that we can listen to just the drums. While I'm pulling up the high pass filter on all these individual drums, you can hear it get thinner and then get back to thick again for each one of them. So we'll play it and then I'll show you how that's coming down. I goofed. On here, I don't think I hit apply. So on DCA number 2, why is this not doing that? I don't know. It says all. It says that's on there. Now that says they're all on 4. I see. So I tried something that I can do on other consoles, but not on this one. On this console, you can only have one DCA assigned for each channel. So you can't multi-assign DCAs on this board or this mixer. Other consoles, you can have it. So you can have a drums DCA and you can have a band DCA. This only lets you do one or the other. So because I have all of these assigned to number 4, you can see along here, all of these are on 4. Not good. So we're going to have to go back to individual groups for that. I can't do all the band. I'm going to have to do drums, instruments, vocals, and then I could fade all of those out at once if I wanted to. So back to the drawing board. So DCA number 1, we're doing this. DCA number 2, we're doing 7 through 11. DCA number 3, we're doing 12 through 15, and then 16 is just not going to be in a DCA. That's what I'm doing for my 3 DCAs. Oh, another thing that might be helpful is on DCA number 4, maybe your effects returns for the vocals, you put that there. My vocal effects returns on effects 2 and 3, which we haven't set up yet, but when somebody starts talking instead of singing, you don't want a bunch of reverb and delay on it. So having that DCA available to just duck that down either all the way or a little bit is helpful to not be so distracting. So that can be helpful as well. That's how I would set up DCAs on this mixer. So let's get back to the high pass filter now. All right, so that kick does sound kind of flabby. Let's go back here and we're gonna go to the EQ. We don't have to go up very far for the kick to start to sound thin. So at around 90, yeah, that's too much. So let's back it off till it gets thicker again. Let me turn it off to see what the difference is. That's helpful. Let's go into the snare. All right, so that's a lot more snares rather than beef out of the snare. Let's dial it back a little bit. It's beefy again. Let's turn it off. It got a little bit tighter. Let's do it for the tom. Hopefully we can find a spot where he's playing the tom again. There we go. And the drummer's singing, I love it. All right, so that's about right for that. Let's turn it off. Tighter with the high pass filter. Let's turn up the other tom too. Let's turn that off. You can hear how it rings more with the kick drum when it's off. Let's see if he does a fill here again. All right, so tom 2. Let's make it too thin. It sounds like a smaller, thinner tom. That's about right there. Feels good. Now the overheads, the high pass filter can be really handy on here. We can have the overheads. Let's just mute everything else but the overheads. We can hear the cymbals and everything else. You can hear some thud of the kick. You can definitely hear the snare. There's the cymbals, of course. If we roll this up, we can have it just be cymbals. This can be really helpful if you just want to have cymbals out of your overheads, or if you want to have the overall drum kit sound, you can do that as well. That sounds good. Let's see what it's like with the rest of the drums. So it's a little more separated. It's a little less everything is there in the overheads when you rolled up the high pass filter. So I think that's pretty cool. Now we can unmute the rest of the instruments and start with the bass. We shouldn't need a lot of high pass filter on the bass, but a little bit helps. I'm gonna take off the low pass filter for now so we're not hearing the difference on that. It's subtle, but it does help. Let me roll this low pass filter down some again. Now let me turn down the drums. On the electric, we've already got the high pass filter on from some stuff I was demonstrating earlier. But if we roll this up, we can actually get up pretty high. And with the bass in there, we can get away with a lot of high pass filter. Now if the bass dropped out, that electric would sound pretty thin. Let's warm it up just a little bit. And do the same thing on the keyboard. Awesome. Now on vocals, the high pass filter really helps in a hurry too. think my crowd mic input might not be in sync with the rest of the stuff. That's probably a file error on my end, so let's disregard that for now. It sounds not quite in time. So, with the high pass filter, and that's the only thing that we've engaged. And yes, you could do that from the input screen. Make sure you turn it off and then roll that up. We got things a lot cleaner with just a little bit of effort. Let me go through and turn off all the EQs and then turn them back on in a similar section so that you can hear the difference. Hopefully, we'll be able to edit this together so that it's a little bit more concise for on and off. You don't have to see me punching the buttons all around. So let me try that and see if we can cobble something together for you to demonstrate kind of an A/B test on high pass filter, no high pass filter.
The glory to his name, ascribing to the Lord, crying to the Lord. The glory to his name, ascribing to the Lord. All of the honor and the praise, ascribing to the Lord. And he's worthy of all of the glory and all of our love, and all of our love, singing for he is holy, for he is holy, and he's worthy of all of the glory and all of our love, and all of our love, singing.
So that's how you build a basic mix with the MR18 or the XAir18, and just one knob on all your channels can make things a lot clearer really quickly. I have to say, I am using a band in a box, so all of my inputs are coming in line level. I didn't have to adjust the preamp because all of the levels have already been balanced basically when it was recorded. So all of my input gain or my mic gain, I didn't have to touch any of that. That would be another step that you'd have to take in order to get right, to get good results and good signal level coming into your mixer. That's all we have for this video, but in the next section, I'll show you how to compress vocals to get them a little bit tighter and stay in one spot. And again, we can do that with just about one knob on this little mixer, and we'll dive into the effects as well. If you want all my tips on how to EQ and compress things with all the different parameters that I use as a starting place to listen for, again, it's not a preset, you can check out my live mixing field guide at livemixingfieldguide.com or the link down in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up to help the algorithm, and go ahead and comment Sound Ninja if you're enjoying this series. As always, remember, it's all about the low end, avoid the sound tech solo, and nobody leaves church humming the kick drum. We'll see you back here next time on Attaway Audio.